Good morning, everybody. I should say good afternoon for us here in the East. We're going to start today's session. Welcome to the Forestry and Natural Resources webinar series. This is made possible through partnership with myself, Robert Barden, here at North Carolina State University, Bill Hubbard with the Extension Forestry Southern Regional Office, and Eric Taylor with AgriLife Extension, and the rest of the 13 Southeast universities and the U.S. Forest Service. So at this time, we're going to do a quick little poll so our speaker has an idea of where people are participating from. So at this time, if you could answer A, B, C, D, or E, that would be great. Polling's done at the bottom of the participant window. All you have to do is click on one of those letters. So Sarah, if you could go to the bottom of the participant window, which is below everybody's name, you'll see the A, B, C, D, or E. Same with you, Rick. If you could go to the bottom of the participant window and click on one of those letters. Okay, it looks like we got a good swath of people here. I'm going to push that out onto the whiteboard so everybody has a chance to see it, and our speaker does. We do have folks participating from all regions of all the different time zones, so thanks for joining us today. Let me clear the poll. Next, we'd like to give them an idea of who his audience is. So if you could click on A, B, C, D, or E at the bottom of the participant window. And then we'll publish that up here in a second for him. All right, looks like most people have had a chance to participate. So I'm going to publish those results up for our presenter today. As you can see, we have a good mix of folks. So please sit back and enjoy today's session. We do like you to participate. If you got questions you'd like to ask and things like that, I know our speaker is open to that. So let me introduce our speaker for today and the topic. Today we're going to talk about making Google Earth work for land management. Our presenter today is James Yoik. He's an Extension Associate here at North Carolina State University with the Extension Forestry Unit. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to James so we can get started. Go ahead, James.
Greetings. I hope everybody can hear me. Can you hear me well, Bob? Okay. I'm seeing claps here. That's very good. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. Boy, we have a crowd here. 173 people are in here. So that gets us down to about 170 participants. Very good. Thank you all for coming for the first one of 2011. We're going to take a quick look at Google Earth for land management. We're not going to get into a great amount of detail, but hopefully enough to get you started with it and to whet your appetite to want to learn some more. There's an amazing amount of things that you can do with Google Earth. It's not a full-blown GIS, granted, but it does make simple mapping tasks very easy. So we're going to move ahead here. Oh, but first, a shameless commercial. I noticed a lot of folks are from the East, and hopefully a lot are from North Carolina. We at Extension Forestry at NC State have a new Woodland Owners Update newsletter and news blog, Facebook group, and LinkedIn. So these websites are to enroll in all these are listed below on this slide here. We're up about 370 strong right now in our newsletter. We'd like to get that up to a couple thousand if we could. So more, you don't have to be a North Carolinian either to sign up for it. So you're more than welcome to. And it's just another way that we're trying to get information out to folks, and also to get folks to interact with each other through our Facebook group and our LinkedIn group. So this is going to be recorded, so you'll have a chance to go back and get these links later on. All right, moving ahead here. All right, so we've got our letters A through E, And I'm going to take just a quick poll here and just to see where we stand in terms of Google Earth usage. All right, so what best describes you? Go ahead and click the appropriate letter. And we'll give everybody another couple of seconds on this. Looks like most everybody's done. All right, let's push this one out and see what it says. Okay, so most folks, like me, up until about a year ago, used Google Earth to browse around the world. It's a lot of fun. I plan my trips using Google Earth. It's really neat. But there's a lot more that you can use it for. You can store GPS markers. Let me see if I can get that turned off. Can you turn that off for me, Bob? You can use it for some general mapping purposes. Thank you. And loading images for mapping purposes. And you can store all this information in a really nice, clean format that you can export out to clients and to other folks so that you can pass on your information to them. So what we'll cover over the next 55 minutes are some of the basics of Google Earth, how you navigate around through it, and how you basically create some projects in generating landowner mapping information, and then how you would quickly be able to distribute that information out to folks. So first of all, why are we interested in even doing quick and dirty mapping? Well, GIS is very expensive. It's got a very steep learning curve. A lot of folks don't have the time or the money to invest in it. Google Earth is a very simple way of developing very quick maps that can be used for anything from stewardship plans, present use valuation plans, cost sharing, those sorts of things in terms of land management planning. It could also be used in daily activities. I'm putting together a course I'll be teaching next month to Christmas tree farmers and how they can map their Christmas tree farms, and their number one reason for wanting to do this is so that they can get their workers out there on a day-to-day basis, print out a map and show them this is where I want you to go work. So it's very important for them to be able to just have access to mapping information very quickly. That goes to any other kind of farming activity, be it viticulture, pasture lands, horticulture operations, you name it. So there's a lot of reasons why folks would want to be able to have access to developing quick maps and how Google Earth can get you there. So first of all, where do you get Google Earth, and what is the basic interface, and how do you navigate around through it? We're also going to take a quick look at some of the interface on how it's set up. So first of all, where do you get Google Earth? The easiest thing to do is just to Google Earth. Okay, so that'll get you out to their website, and the latest version is Google Earth version 6. And I downloaded my version probably about 3 or 4 months ago. It's probably a little behind. They keep updating it about every 3 to 4 months, it seems like. So there is a free version of Google Earth, and that's the one you want to get. If you notice at in the middle of that screen it says Google Earth Pro, that will cost users about $400 a year, and it has some extra advantages to it, like being able to do area calculations and things like that. You can get around that. You can find other ways of doing area calculations, but Google Earth, the free version, will not do those for you. So $400 a year is a little expensive to get that. So I stick with the basic version. So I'm going to, with no further ado, go on out and open up Google Earth. And to do that, I'm going to be doing the application sharing. I've got Google Earth loaded up already, ready to go. And what I'm going to ask you all to do is You'll see it popping up on your screen here. One of the biggest problems I have with this is the refresh rate on your screens are going to be relatively slow. But what I want you to see is you've got this new application sharing window open on your screen. And what I would like you to do is to keep it over, first of all, get that screen as large as possible so that you could see the bottom of the Google Earth window. And what I mean by the bottom is, you see where, if you can't see where my cursor is, then you can't see the bottom of the Google Earth window. At the very bottom of that map should be a imagery date, lat long, and eye altitude, and those sorts of things. If you can't see that, go ahead and grab your window over here in the lower right-hand corner and stretch it out so that you can actually see the rest of the Google Earth window. The other thing that I want you to be able to do is to drag the application sharing window over to the right as far as possible so that you can see the chat window that's behind it in the Illuminate Live window. Okay, if you can see that, that means you can go in there and you could type questions. Our moderators are going to be watching these questions, and we will be taking a break in about, probably about 10 to 12 minutes on that, and I'll be fielding those questions for you. But you go ahead and start typing those in, and we'll be tracking those. All right, so here we are with Google Earth. I'm going to zoom out all the way because I want you to see basically what it looks like when you get it loaded up. And of course, your refresh rate's going to be really slow, but eventually you'll see the whole globe. All right, what we have is your basic navigational tools are listed over here, and by default they show up. So when you load up Google Earth for the first time, you should see these. Okay, and you click on it, and they will appear for you so that you can see what they're doing. All right. This one on the top with the north arrow, if you take it and drag it, it actually orients your window north, south, east, or west, whichever direction you want it to face. Okay, the one in the middle will move you around. It's a little panning tool, so I'm clicking to the right, and it's scrolling, it's turning to the right. Okay, and then the one on the bottom obviously is a zoom in and zoom out. All right, those are really nice, and they come in handy at times. The mouse clicks get you around a little bit better though. All right, and if you move the mouse onto your screen, and if you have a roller wheel on your mouse, all you have to do is start rolling that forward and you will zoom in. Okay, and roll it out and you zoom out. Left mouse button turns to the left. Right mouse button does kind of a fly in and zoom you around. And the two that I end up using the most, I don't use the right mouse button a whole lot. I use the left mouse button and the wheel. And what I do is you actually, if you press on the wheel, you can really start looking at things in terms of 3 dimensions and those sorts of things. So we're going to see that in just a minute, okay? And I'll be explaining some of these moves as we go along. I'm going to take a quick look at these, the things on the left-hand side, and what you have are 3 areas on the left-hand side of the screen. You have the search window, you have the places window, and then the layers window. We're going to start with the search and take a look at, if anybody's ever used Google Maps, it's basically the same idea, but you have 3 options. You have fly to, find businesses, or directions. We're going to do fly to, and I'm going to fly to the place where I'm going to be going immediately after this class. I'm doing another GPS or another Google Earth seminar in Lewisburg, and let's see if I could spell it right. Lewisburg, NC, and see if it takes me there. So It's found it. You can see it down here on if I have a number of entries for 103 South Bickett Street, it'll give me the choices of which ones, and basically it zooms me into that location of where I'm going to go. Okay. If I like that location, I could actually save it. I can grab this, drag it down into Places, and it will save it. And I don't want to do that right now, but that's really, it's a very handy tool. If you wanted to get directions from your home to 103 South Bickett Boulevard, it'll give you that as well. All right. So searching is pretty simple, and one of the things that I do is if a landowner calls me and he's talking about his property, I'll ask him while I'm on the phone. I'll have Google Earth up and running. I'll ask him what their address is. I'll type that in while I'm talking to him, and more often than not, it'll get me to their property, and I can actually kind of look around and see what they're talking about. And so that's the search. I'm going to clear the searches. And now that I'm searched in here, I want to show you some of this navigational abilities again. I talked about the wheel in the center of the mouse. If I push down on that, I'm just dragging backward on the mouse, and what it's doing is it's getting me into kind of a three-dimensional, or it's into a oblique view of what's going on. Now, I don't have the three-dimensional capabilities turned on yet in Google Earth, so everything just looks flat. This is important. I want you to see how you turn on and turn off the terrain, because sometimes you want it on, and actually most of the time you want it on, some of the times you want it off. So to turn it on, it's going to be a little bit different depending on whether or not you're using a Macintosh or whether you're using a Windows machine. For the Macintosh version of Google Earth, you would click on Google Earth over here and Preferences, and you'll see down here Terrain Quality. Right now I have Terrain turned off. Okay, so I'm just going to click that. And just for fun, I'm going to leave the vertical exaggeration at 3. Okay, and click on OK, and ooh boy. All right, so we got our three-dimensional capabilities now. That's when this being able to navigate with the wheel and tipping it up and tipping it back really comes in handy in allowing you to see the lay of the land. And here we've obviously got a river running through here, and there's the the side of the creek, the bank heading down to it. Okay, so I'm going to go into Places now. I'm going to just show you how this kind of really looks well when you're up in the mountains there. I'm just going to go to a point that I've created up in the mountains, and this is up in Haywood, good old Haywood County, where I spent some time. And here's how the three-dimensional view looks. Of course, it looks like you're in the Himalayas at this point, but as soon as it refreshes, you'll see. But you can go ahead and turn that down so that it looks, a little bit more normal. So anyway, the three-dimensional capabilities of Google Earth are just outstanding, and I am really amazed at how good the photography that they have has become in allowing you to be able to see with good clarity the lay of the land and all the features on it. I'm going to open up layers now just real quick so you can see the third part. By the way, Places, where we were just looking, is where you do the bulk of your work, and we're going to go back to that after our break and take a quick look at how that works. Layers, you can see you've got numerous different layers that you could turn on and off, and I don't have time to spend and investigate all these, but by all means, get out there, play with this, and see what it's got out there. There is a ton of information out there. You could turn the weather on and off and see more or less what the weather's been doing. And if it's cloudy over your area, if it's raining, it will show it. It's relatively up to date in terms of what the weather is. And borders and labels, typically you want to leave that on. Roads, you typically want to leave that on. And borders and labels, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and you can see the county boundary for Haywood County. I'm going to turn north, back up to north again. And so here's Haywood County in the center of the screen there. And then some of the major highways. So that's really important that you just are aware of what these various layers do. Okay, and I'm going to turn the layers off for now and just go back into Places. I'm going to take a break in about 4 minutes and let you guys ask a couple of questions. Actually, I'm going to take it in about 2 minutes and let you guys ask some questions. What I want you to see is one thing is you can pull in information from numerous different sources, and the first place I'm going to pull it in from is from an existing GPS receiver that I've got loaded up. You can see here I've got a Garmin attached, and I'm opening up you got to know where to look. It's in you just keep it open up in the folders until you get to the GPX folder. And that's typically where you store your files in the GPS receiver. I'm going to open up some stuff that's from the Cradle of Forestry. These are just some geocaches that are there, but you'll get the idea of how that works. Notice these are .gpx files, okay? So I'm going to open that up, and we won't worry about that little message right there, but notice where it placed it. It placed it in, we've got the Places window here. There's two main portions of the Places. There's My Places and there's Temporary Places. Okay. Whenever you load up new information, whether somebody has emailed you something or somebody's created a Google Earth file for you, or if you're loading it up from a GPS, it will end up in this Temporary Places section. It's important to know that because when I quit Google Earth, everything that's in this folder here disappears. Everything that's in the My Places folder stays. Okay, so this is your permanent records in Google Earth, and this is your temporary records. So there's that GPS point. Okay, we're not going to dwell on that. The point was just to see how you can get GPS data into Google Earth. Points, lines, and areas, it will pull them all in, and so it's really kind of neat. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to step out of the application sharing window. And actually, I'm going to just stay in here. I'm going to let Bob field the questions for me, and if anybody's got some good questions right now.
Okay, James, thanks. We actually have several questions, so let me start with the first one for today, and that is from Dick Roberts. How accurate are the elevations that appear when you move the cursor around over the GE map?
I don't have an answer. I think the models are different throughout the world, and I suspect the earliest versions of Google Earth were from the radar imagery project that had taken. It was LiDAR that they had done from the space shuttle. No, it was radar. I'm sorry, it was radar from the space shuttle around 2000. And I think that was the earliest model. That wasn't incredibly accurate, probably plus or minus a couple of meters. But it's not bad. I mean, you're probably within a few meters.
Okay.
I'd have to look that one
next, up. All right. Next question is from Jennifer Hammer. How do you turn on the terrain in Windows?
Oh, thank you. Very good question. That's done under the tools. Okay, so yeah, I jumped the gun on that one. You would click on Tools, and you're not going to see it on mine because I'm in the Macintosh, but in here you'll see Options, and so when you click on Options, you'll see that same screen that we were just looking at under Preferences. You'll see this sort of screen, and then you can change the turn on and off the terrain there.
Okay, thank you. From Bill Schuster, how do you tell exactly when images were taken?
Good question. Look down here in the if you hopefully your screens are pulled down enough that you can see the bottom, but imagery dates are different throughout Google Earth. They just get the most recent stuff that they can possibly find, and when you're zoomed all the way out where you're looking at the globe, this won't tell you anything down here in the lower left-hand corner. But as you start zooming in, and it recognizes that as a single imagery piece, it will tell you what the date was on it. So that's down here in the lower left-hand corner. Very good question.
Okay. Somebody has Windows 7. I guess we Mac users will have to apologize. But anyway, and they cannot get Google Earth to operate on their PC. Any insight into Windows 7s and Google Earth on PCs, James?
Not really, no, but I'll be happy to work with him after the course sometime if he wants to email me or give me a call. If you scroll to the top of the chat window, I have my phone number and my email address there. So.
All right. Joel. Oh wait, sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. From Bill Schuster, he's wondering, is there an easy way to import tax parcels from the internet?
That's a good question, too. Hopefully someday there will be. It would be a very, very simple task for them to export their tax parcel data into the KML format, which is the Google Earth format. And right now I don't know of too many folks I don't know of any county mapping offices that actually do that, but I know that if they are running Arcgis at the county mapping office, they have the capability to do it. And it's just a very simple conversion. I do it all the time. I take my ArcGIS data and convert it to a Google Earth format, pull it right in.
Okay, here's one from Joel. He's wondering, can you upload and display GPS-generated tracks?
Yes, you can. What I was just doing before, where you go to File, Open. Of course, your GPS has to be one of the newer ones that you can load. That it plugs into your USB port, and so when you open the file, you should see it listed there. Like I've got my Garmin listed here, and then you just grab the GPX files and pull them in.
Okay. From Catherine, can you add layers to Google Earth that you've created in ArcGIS?
You can, but you have to export them. And if you're familiar with ArcGIS, you go to the toolbox and you go to the 3D Analyst tools, and you'll see conversions, and there'll be a conversion from shapefile to Google KML, and that's what you would use. It doesn't. If you pay the $400 a year for the pro version of Google Earth, it'll read shapefiles directly. The free version doesn't. You have to convert them to KML first.
Okay, here's one from Sarah, and she's wondering, how do I look from identical eye altitude, i.e., can I see an elevation that will remain the same through various screens and views?
I'm not sure I'm following that. Can you read that one again, or maybe we can? Maybe we can attack that one afterwards.
Okay, we'll have to come back to you, Sarah, on that one. From Jim Brown, what is the best and most diverse source of layers on the web? Anywhere to find elevation contours.
Oh, there's numerous places where you can go to get elevational contours. Probably one of your best bets is to look within your state or your county and check there first. All of California has had LiDAR done to it, so we've got very, very accurate elevational readings for our state, and I could get you in touch with that, but I can't speak for other states. I don't really know. But usually the state and the county level is the first place to look. Okay, here's one. Can a business use the free version of Google Earth for business options? You could use it within whatever the limitations of Google Earth are. You just don't have the full-blown capabilities of it.
Okay, and one from Bill Schuster I missed. It says, is there a way to show the underlying DEM topo lines?
No, I haven't. You can't see the skeleton underneath. They drape the imagery on top of it. I haven't seen it anyway, so there may be a way of doing it, but I haven't seen it.
Here's one from Anne-Marie Smith. Did you know if there are any plans to add a topographic contours to GE?
I haven't, not that I'm aware of. You can, if you have topographic contours in shapefile format, you can convert them to a Google Earth KML format and load them up yourself. And lots of folks do that. I do that fairly routinely. It's just that if I already have the access to the three-dimensional information, usually that's good enough for me in terms of But if you need to know exactly what the elevations are, obviously you could load. You'd want to load this up, and there is a way to do that.
Okay.
I wonder.
Go ahead, Jay.
I'm wondering, do you think maybe we should forge ahead? I know there's tons of questions, and there's a couple of things I want to show folks before we move on, or before we close up for the day.
Okay. Go ahead, move on, and we'll get back to their questions at the next opportunity.
Okie dokie. And if I can't answer all questions during this time, I'll make sure that somehow I get up with you all and have all these questions answered. All right, so let's move on and take a look at an actual project going on here. And these questions had brought up a number of really good points. One was the data format for Google Earth. Google Earth is capable of reading GPS data that's in the GPX format, okay? And most new GPS receivers export their data in that format. It's just it stands for Global Positioning Systems Export Format, and so that's something that's important to know, that you have that ability to read GPS directly into Google Earth. Another format that's Google Earth was actually written in is this KML format that you see I'm kind of pointing to here with this boundary. The KML format stands for Keyhole Markup Language. Google Earth was actually developed by a company called Keyhole something or other. I can't remember their whole name. You can Google them sometime and look them up. But Keyhole developed this markup language, kind of like a HTML sort of language that dealt with spatial data, and they called it the Keyhole Markup Language. When Google bought out that company, they just kept that same name. So that's why you see the KML. Another file format that you see routinely associated with Google Earth is this KMZ format right here, and that's just usually when you save a project, you can save it in KML or KMZ, and the KMZ is just a zipped version of a KML file, so it's a compressed version of it. It's really neat. Both formats are really neat because you can store a lot of different types of data. Points, lines, and areas can all be stored in the KML, or they can be stored in a zipped up file and sent to folks. You can email a KMZ file to your friends, and when they open it up, it opens up Google Earth. It places all the features exactly where they're supposed to be and zooms you in on it. So it's really a handy way of sharing information with people. So let's take a quick look at a project here. All right. I went ahead and created a project already here, and you can see it's called Jackson. I'm going to I'm going to turn that back on. I'm going to kind of minimize everything that's in that folder, but in order to start a project, really what you want to do is you right mouse click on My Places and do Add, and just create a new folder. And it's going to ask you, I'm going to have to drag this over so y'all can see it. I just pulled it off the screen. what the name of the folder is. So, new folder is what I'll call it. And there's my new folder, and it's stored in my places, okay? If I want to add new information to this folder, I right mouse click it. Well, there's a couple of ways I can add information. These tools up here, these four tools that I'm kind of hovering over, are ways of getting information. Basically your map information into a folder. Another way of doing it is just right mouse clicking the folder and going add a path, a polygon, a placemark, or an image overlay. Okay, which is what these four things are up here. That's a placemark, that's a polygon, that's a path or a line, and that's an image overlay. And we're gonna look at adding all four of those things. Okay, so let's just do a placemark first. I pull that in, and it says, all right, what do you want to call it? And I'll just say, if I know I'm going to be doing some work for a family named Jackson, I'll go ahead and type that in, and it placed it, but and this brings up a really good point. How do you edit data? It placed it, and I didn't actually get a chance to put it where I wanted it to go. So I right mouse clicked on that place marker, and I go get info. And I'm going to have to move this out of the way so you can kind of see what's going on. And I don't know where the place mark went. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there's the place mark. And let's say I want it to go right over here on top of, I believe that's Mount Pisgah right there. I just drag it where I want it to go. And as you see, as I'm dragging it, the coordinates, the lat long in that edit screen changes too. Okay, I could type in a description. Now Pisgah, I could change the color and the style. Up here, whoops, I'll have to move this over so you can see. Up here next to the name is a marker symbol, and that allows me to select what marker symbols I want. Okay, so that's how you can change all that stuff around. When I click OK, there it is, and it calls it Jackson. When I click on it, the information that I typed in that description pops up as well. Okay, to do an area, it's basically, I could either right mouse click on folder here and go add polygon, or I could have just clicked on the little polygon tool up there. Okay, and here I would give it a name. Let's say boundary. I could change the color and the style. When you change the style and the color, you have lines and area. Okay, first of all, you want to look here and go, okay, do I want it filled and outlined, or do I want it just outlined? In this case, I want to be able to see the area underneath of it, so I'm just going to make it outlined, and I'm going to make it a red outline. Click OK, and I'll make it kind of wide. Notice you also have opacity here. If I set that to 50%, that allows you to kind of see through the feature, which is a nice thing to be able to do. All right, so now whoops, I didn't digitize anything in there, so I'm going to have to go back. And I'm doing this on purpose so you can see how you can edit stuff. So I right mouse clicked on boundary. I go get info. It's kind of obtuse, but that's how you open something up to edit it. All right, I'm going to drag this out of the way so I can see. And here's my little cursor. You can't see it on your screen, but what I'm seeing on my screen is it looks like a crosshair. All right, and you'll see that when you're actually doing it. But here's I'm going through the digitizing process. Okay, now one thing I want you to see is as I'm digitizing, I'm getting these red dots. The lines look squiggly because it's actually following the terrain, okay, which is kind of cool. I get these red dots for the vertices that I've created. The most recent one is in blue. That's the active vertice right there. Okay. If I put my cursor over it, you notice it turns green, and I can actually drag it and move it. So that's how you can change things around. Okay. If I want to move this one, for whatever reason, I put the cursor over it till it turns green, and then I move it. Okay. To get it back into digitizing mode again, let's say I want to start digitizing in here. I have to click on the one following it, make that active, and then when I go over here, oops, I guess I lied. Oh, this brings up a good point. If you want to delete, you just hit the delete key, and it's just deleting them one by one. Okay, so here I want to start digitizing, so now I can go ahead and I'm going to drag this guy over here. So that's how you go about creating stuff and digitizing. One other feature that's been occurring that I didn't mention is you can stream as well. So if I click here and just hold the cursor down, now I don't do this too often, but what it does is it just creates a whole stream of vertices, okay, which can become tedious if you're trying to edit this. So I just click one at a time. Okay. So again, before I close out, I can go ahead and type in a description. Okay. If I happen to know the acreage, I could type that in. Click OK. All right. Now it's stored, and when I click on that feature, there's the information. So anything I typed in that text box, that description box, and you can go on and on and on. You could, put in. You could actually have links to pictures and stuff like that. So you could, you could do whatever you want inside that box. It's very, very handy for creating that information. So you saw all that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this folder. And I wanted to show you a more complete project. Let me open up that, and I'm going to zoom to Jackson. All I did is double click on this project called Jackson. I'm going to turn off some of this overlying aerial imagery. So here's a hardwood stand that I digitized, 75 years old, basal area, mixed oaks and yellow poplar. Click on that one, grazed hardwoods, okay, mixed white pine, oak, and yellow poplar. So again, all that information that you want to include with that gets pulled in. All right, this is the boundary around the property. Now, so you could digitize points. You could do lines if I want to do roads or trail systems, or you can do areas. Okay. And one of the unfortunate things is that you cannot calculate acreage. There are workarounds. There's software that you could download that will grab a KML and it'll calculate all the acres of all the areas inside that KML. And I'd be happy to work with you on how to do that. Actually, it's not really something set up for Mac users. It's more of a Windows-based software package. It's a very simple thing to use. I think it's called Easy Acreage. So something to keep in mind. Okay, or there's other ways of getting information about acreage. Sometimes your tax office GIS, if you have an interactive GIS at your tax office, you can digitize the boundaries in and it'll calculate the acreages for you. So there's lots of different ways. But right now, the only measuring that you could do is with lines or with paths. So a line is just a single 2 points, the distance between 2 points. A path allows you to click numerous points and calculates the length for you. Okay, so you can get lengths. If you had the full-blown professional version, you would see lines and you'd also see areas, and you'd be able to calculate acreage with that. Hopefully, down the road, a newer version of some future version of the regular old Google Earth will do that for us, and if so, we'll have it made in the shade. That'll be really nice. Okay, so what, that's great. I can digitize things off it, but where can I get information to digitize things off of? So, how do I know what somebody's property boundary looks like? Well, again, if you have access to a county mapping office, you can zoom in on the property, and it'll show you the boundaries around that property. All you need to do at that point is do a screen print and save it, and any computer can do that. It can save whatever image is on your screen, and you can save it as a JPEG file. If you're having trouble doing that, get up with me and I'll show you how to do it. It's really simple. And that's what I've done here with this aerial image. Okay, and it's a little hard to see, but there's yellow lines on here, and those are the property boundaries. All right, and I just went ahead and downloaded this from the Haywood County mapping office. And why did I do that? Well, for a couple of reasons. One is so I can get the property boundary. The other is most of our mapping office data is taken during leaf off period, because our tax offices want to see where all the additions have been built. They don't want trees covering it up, so they do it during leaf off period. So you get a very good idea of what's going on. Like, I can clearly see that this is not deciduous forest right here. This is either pines, or probably in that area it's probably a little rhodo patch. But you can clearly delineate between hardwoods and mixed pine hardwood forests and pine stands and those sorts of things. So being able to get that information from your county mapping office is really neat. So how did I get this picture to line up? And I'm going to be running out of time here in about 2 minutes, so I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible. What you do is when you load up a new picture, I'm going to turn this one off, it's where this image overlay comes into play. Okay, I go ahead and click on that. First of all, I kind of zoomed in more or less where I want the picture to be. Okay, and I kind of, what you end up with is this this little grid sort of thing. I'm trying to get it to set up right. There we go. Okay. So I have this grid. That's where it's going to dump the picture. All right. I go ahead and I find my picture now, and it just so happens it's this one, and it sticks it more or less where I want it to go. I'm going to drag this out of the way, but before I do, I want you to see that you have this ability to make it transparent. All right. I'm going to make it about halfway transparent, and then move this out of the way so I can kind of see what's going on. And without spending too much time doing this, because I've only got like 1 more minute here, but what I'd like to do is I drag these corners. You can see here's the boundary or the road, and here's where I'm trying to match it up. So really what I do is I spend a couple of minutes just trying to align the picture. Give it a second, you'll see. So I got the road kind of aligned over there, and let's see, I'm going to kind of align it this way and then kind of align it this way, and I'm doing this so that faster than it's refreshing. I apologize, but just so that you can kind of see how the two line up. And I'm going to zoom in. And of course, the more time you take with this, the better it is. But I'm going to go ahead and make this completely opaque now. I'm going to go ahead and store it. And it's stored it right here under Untitled Image Overlay. And of course, I could have changed its name. But when I turn that off, you can see what's underneath. Turn it on. You see things are shifted a little bit. It's just a matter of spending more time laying that on top of each other. So now I can start digitizing things in there, right? And when I'm all done and I get my project saved the way I want, it's just a simple matter of right mouse clicking on the project folder, doing Save Place As, and it'll store it as either a KML or a KMZ. All right. So everything in that folder is going to get saved, which is really pretty neat. So it's already been saved, so I'm not going to do it right now. But if I right mouse click that again and go email, it will take that folder and it'll email that to my friend. All my friend has to do is open up that attachment in the email. They don't even have to dump it to their file or to their computer. All they have to do is double click on it. It'll open up Google Earth and it'll take that folder, place it in My Places, and zoom you right in to the project. So it's a lot of fun. You ought to give that a try sometime. With that, I guess I better hush up here for a little bit and let folks ask a couple of questions. Then I think you have a evaluation that you need to fill out. So anyway, oh, by the way, in your evaluation, if you have any interest in taking some more courses, more detailed courses, or in other areas of this type of mapping, feel free to say so, and I'd love to teach this more. Anyway, okay, there you go.
Okay, thanks, James. Let's open it up now for questions. So let me get caught back up here with where we left off at. Question here from Chris. It says, make notes of the ability to view images from earlier dates and how to access that.
Ah, good. Okay. Certainly, that's very simple to do. It's right here on the this little clock that I'm clicking. Got my cursor over. If you click on that, that does the history, and you could scroll back in time. And I appreciate you bringing that up because that's something I wanted to show folks. Let me turn this off. But that's 2006 imagery, 2005, 1998. 1995. And it only goes back as far as whatever Google Earth has access to. But what's really neat is the fact that you can see changes over time, and so that's a wonderful feature of Google Earth. Thank you.
All right. Here's one. Your image shows a scale in feet. How do you enable that feature?
Probably under preferences. Let's see. General map size.
Under show elevation, it says feet or miles and meters and kilometers.
Oh, okay.
They're in the middle of your.
Right here. Yep. There you go. So those are your only options.
So
no change.
Getting back to Sarah's re-asked her question, it was in reference to the eye altitude, and that's in. If people aren't familiar with that, that's there in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Right. She's wondering, what if I want to look from exactly 10,000 feet rather than 15,556 feet?
Right, I get your
Can
point
you set
now.
that
right.
so don't?
I don't know if there's a way of setting your eye elevation. I've never tried it. That may be in here, maybe under navigation. I haven't. That's never come up before, so I've never. But that's a. I imagine imagine there's a way of doing it. Google Earth is it's pretty much open source the way the software is written, and people have written all kinds of little programs that work within Google Earth in JavaScript, and there may be one out there that does that.
Okay.
But aside from that, all I know is to just zoom it in to whatever that elevation is, and then go with that.
So here's one from Jonathan Case. It says, it is possible to create GPS points on Google Earth and then export to a GPS utility. The program then converts the KLM to a GPX file format so you can download to a handheld GPS unit. Is there an easier way to do this?
There is no direct way. You have to go through another set of software in order to create GPS. In order to load KML data onto a GPS, you have to run it through a separate set of software. That's just the way this Google Earth, this version of it is set up. There's a number of software out there, a number of packages, free packages that will do those conversions for you.
Okay, here's one. Can you choose your viewpoint accurately? Your latitude, longitude, and azimuth?
I don't know. These are things I've never tried before with it. I suspect there probably is a way of doing that, but I've never. Probably if you created one way of doing it would be to create a placemark and setting the lat long exactly where it is you want and what altitude you want it to be at. So that may be one way of doing it, and then just going to where that is. Once you've created it, it'd be as simple as just clicking on it, and it'll zoom you into it. But go ahead.
Okay, so from Francis, how do you make place marks appear and disappear as you zoom in and out when you move the mouse over the place mark?
There's ways of doing that that's coded in JavaScript that will do that, and certain applications do that for you. Right now, I don't know if this is set up so that it will turn on and off at a certain altitude or not. It doesn't look like it does. No, I don't know the answer to that. But I'll be happy to try to find it out for you.
Okay, here's one from Chris Schnepp. He's wondering, what is a vertice?
Okay. A vertice is, I'm going to go ahead and make this active. Okay, you see all these little red dots? Wait, give it a second. There, okay, there we go. All these little red dots. Those are what I clicked when I was actually creating that polygon. And so each one of those is a vertex. And together they're called vertices.
All right, so thank you.
Points that make up the area.
So here's one. Can you export polygons, paths, etc. to .lyr files for use in ArcGIS?
Can I export them to what? Can you say that again? My phone went off while you were...
Can you export polygons, paths, etc. to .lyr files for use in ArcGIS?
Oh, to layer files? You can import Kmz files. You can't export them from Google Earth to a layer file, but in ArcGIS, you can pull in a Kmz file. So just save them as a save them as a KML file, and then go to ArcGIS and import them into ArcGIS, and then you can change them to whatever you want.
Okay, earlier you had said that with the free version of Google Earth, there's no way to measure area of a polygon, correct?
Correct, unfortunately.
Okay. Here's one from John Anks. When you save the information, the KML file, is it saved on your PC or is it out there on a Google Earth public
good question.
access?
It's when I go to right mouse click and go save place as, see where it's putting it? It's putting it right on my hard drive. So it's saving it. It's personal information stored on my computer. However, there are ways of pulling that into Google Maps and creating a map in Google Maps has a section called My Maps, and you can pull in the KML files for everybody to look at if you like.
Okay. In the chat window, if you type in your email and phone number, James, that would make it easier for people to get a hold of you. We're going to have to move on since it's 1 o'clock.
Yep. I did.
Can you turn off your sharing, application sharing, please?
Okay. Scroll to the top of the chat window, everybody. I'll type it in again, but I put it in there already, my email and my phone number. So, been a pleasure.
All right, thanks, James. We're going to, real quick, move through his last few slides here.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the satisfaction survey. I'm going to send out that link here in a second. We ask you to take your time to complete this survey. Your responses are anonymous. And what we're going to do is use this information to improve our future webinars, and it's also used to help us justify doing these webinars by measuring impact. If you are applying for continuing education credits, it is required that you complete the satisfaction survey. After you complete that survey, it'll redirect you to a form in order to provide the information you need to obtain your continuing education credits. And then credits will be emailed to you within a few days. So let me send you out, well, two things. One, I'm going to put it in the chat window, the link. So if for some reason when I send it out and your browser doesn't open, you can directly click on the evaluation in the chat window there. It's at the bottom next to my name as the moderator, Robert Barden. And I'm also going to share with you it should open your browser in the front of Illuminate, but sometimes it opens it behind it. If it opens behind it, just minimize your Illuminate session and you can get to your browser and complete that survey. That's it for today's webinar. So once you go ahead and complete that survey, feel free to contact James. He'll get up with you and answer any questions that you have left. We do appreciate your time and energy for participating in today's webinar. Thank you.